Well, good morning, everybody.
Yes.
Welcome to the first meeting for 2022. I will ask for any apologies. Are there any apologies? There being none. Are there any items not on the agenda? There being none. Are there any conflicts of interest? No. Okay, we shall move on to 1.4 minutes for confirmation.
I'm happy to move.
Are there any discrepancies, errors or alterations? I have 2.1 under the community management, which referred to the heritage grant. We are still having problems with a very small lobby group resident in Tyron. It has not been resolved. I just want to let you know that. Under 3.1, properties and facilities, I did query the minutes coming out of the information centre about the permanent lease, but I believe we've clarified that.
Yeah.
Is that right, Manager?
Yes, it's clarified that the lease is up for renewal in 2025.
Mm-hmm. 6.1 under the actual action schedule, the Hikora District Trust. It appears to me that we're just carrying on down the same track here. We get a report which consists of rat kills and possum kills and stoats. But sorry,
No, okay, keep going.
we're I'm still not getting any information about what's happening with the Tairua side. I note on their last month's letter that they're saying they've still got the major problems in the middle, but they're proceeding to do part 4 from the garage back north. So it's the same old thing.
Same, yeah.
Yeah.
So part of their funding agreement is that they have to give us a quarterly report. So I will be following that up because the quarterly report is due now. And with that is supposed to be giving us evidence that they have been working on stage 4, which is the Tairua to Tairua cemetery portion. So I'll follow that up.
They've run into all kinds of problems with the landowners and
Yeah, well, that's been for the time memorial, the same problem. The other part of it, 6.2, the Hikora Hall car park. Have we had any progress on the car park issues? We were looking at bollards, or we were looking at some form of.
So I know property have been working with Anita on all those improvements. I can get a report from property as to where that's at and get it out to the board.
Is this the ceiling of the car park?
Well, no, it was just to help
Stop the wheels.
stop the wheelies and stuff, but there was also some refurbishment of the hall itself, but I'll follow that up with property.
And the only other question I haven't asked about the curb trimming of the footpath, and that seems to have disappeared. Do we have any response?
I did send that through to Roading, but once again, I can follow that up as well.
Okay. So can we have a move and a second, please?
Yes, so move.
Oh, sorry, Terry, I didn't hear that. All in favour?
Aye.
Thank you.
Public forum.
We currently have Lynn Salt available.
Is that all?
Yeah. Donna's not joining anymore. She's having some troubles with her connection this morning. So she'll come and speak at another time. And we haven't got hold of Rowena yet.
Well, good morning, Len.
Good morning. Can you hear and see me?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I have a PowerPoint presentation. It's a short one, which I'd like to share with you. I'm going to try and do it on the share tray. If it doesn't work, Esther's got a backup copy. So we'll try and do this. Right, is that coming up?
Yep. Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. So the reason I wanted to talk to you today is it's about waste management, and this is a conversation that we need to have in each particular town and right across the district, really, because the solid waste contracts are up for negotiation and renewal at the moment. And the process of handling solid waste in our district has been well researched and well canvassed. And back in 2017, there was a waste minimisation and management plan which was put together with Matamata Piako and Hauraki District. Terry and Sally Christie were involved in that. It was a comprehensive report and it set out some very specific objectives. The problem that we've had is within the district, those objectives have, progress has been made on achieving those waste minimisation objectives in the areas where we've got active management of resource recovery. In the areas where we haven't had active management of resource recovery, those objectives are just not being achieved. And we've got an opportunity now with the new contracts to address that and see if we can turn this around. I've got a picture there of the waste hierarchy, and that is taken straight from that report that Terry and Sally were involved in back in 2017. Oops, sorry, that one's upside down. But there's a reason why it's upside down, is because in some areas, particularly in Mercury Bay and Whangamata, we are doing everything all wrong, and we've been limited in what we can do. We're in the process of changing that, but the changing of that way we handle waste and the waste management is part of the process that we need to talk about. So the contracts are underway now. The tenders are going to be awarded in June 2022, and the new contracts will start in July 2023. At the moment, the proposal from council is that the contracts will be split into curbside collection, refuse transfer station management, and transport to landfill. These splits in the contracts are quite critical, because the discussion that we need to have is whether we take back control of operation and management of transfer stations under community management. There's been lots and lots of research done right across the country, and every report that I've read shows quite clearly that the results that are being achieved happen because of community and council cooperation and partnership. So under the proposal, and this came up at community board last week at Mercury Bay, the proposal is that we're going to have wheelie bins by September 2023. And this is going to be part of the new contract. We'll also have, and again, this is part of the discussion that's going on at the moment, a 3 or 4 bin curbside collection. So we'll have recycling, which might be the current recycling bins, or it might be glass separately as we do now. The discussion that we need to have, and this is a really important one, is food waste, because over 50% of everything that goes into blue bags is food waste. The third bin will be landfill. In other words, stuff that isn't food waste, isn't recycling, and is going to landfill. There is another option for that. So there's the mix that we've had, and this is TCDC's own research. We're currently sending about 18,000 tonnes of material to landfill every year, and this is from 2015-16. The objectives in the 2017 document said, look, we need to be reducing this in reality, it's not happening in the areas where we don't have resource recovery centres. But the good news is we've got a plan to change that. The Thames Coromandel Food Waste Resource Group recently did a survey, and there is very, very strong public support for food waste collection and management to get that stuff out of the blue bags or out of wheelie bins. So at the moment, we've got resource recovery centres, as you're all aware, Thames and Coromandel, and those resource recovery centres or Seagull centres have done really, really well. We're building one in Whitianga at the moment, and we've been working with the Waste Minimisation Fund and the Ministry for the Environment on funding for that, and we're working closely with Thames, with the Mercury Bay Community Board and TCDC to get that facility built. The funding that we've got is subject to conditions, but we're working through with council to meet all those, but it's looking very, very good at the moment. So the answer to reducing waste is two things. First of all, community-centred solutions. And as I said, there's lots and lots of reports from around the country. Successful waste minimisation and recovery programs show one common element: community-led initiatives, community buy-in from household to landfill, and this has to start right at the household. Partnerships work, and I've got a comment in there, if the goodwill is there. Now that's really important, because if you have a private contractor involved in the operation, and we will have, there's got to be a good line of communication between the private contractor and the resource recovery centre. And the profits go back into community development and into the community. So this quote is from the Auckland report, which was done a little while ago. And the council WasteWise teams now have multi-year agreements with 19 community partners. In Auckland, they've got 9 centres running, and they're working on lifting that up to 12. The volumes that they're pulling out of waste, out of landfill, are just phenomenal. Here's another example, and this one at the top here is from Raglan. 178,000 kilos of waste diverted from landfills every month. 29,000 people attended the waste site visits, 29,000 children involved in education programs. They're getting really creative about how they manage building waste, and building waste is what we're going to be focusing on in Whitianga. And there's an example of nails which have been put on for sale on Facebook recently in Whitianga. In Auckland, there's a company called Green Gorilla that pull 5,000 kilos a day of nails and steel out of material going to landfill. So that just gives you an idea of the volumes involved. So we did an e-waste drive, as you know. There was one in Whangamata, there was one in Whitianga. We held that in December, and we pulled about 12,000 kilos of material into the e-waste drive, and 8,000 kilos from Whangamata. That's nearly 20 tonnes of material that would have gone into landfill. And that gives you an idea of, it was a very, very successful drive, and we had a lot of support from local people. Building consents, this is going to affect all of us across the district, some parts more than others, but certainly in Mercury Bay, within 5 years, if we're looking at 5% growth, we're talking about 1,000 building consents a year, which is producing huge amounts of waste, which we really want to keep out of landfill. And I know I'm running out of time, so I'll keep this short, but if we are managing this material through a resource recovery centre, we've got the ability to process about 3.75 tonnes a day of material that can be reused and repurposed. So, transfer stations operated by and for the community. What we need to do is have a conversation as community board, as residents and ratepayers in the community, about managing the transfer stations ourselves, about taking back control and the benefits of the waste minimisation objectives that we have of benefiting the whole community and taking control of that process so that we start to reduce the waste that's going into landfill. We're going to struggle to do that unless we have community and council partnerships. And I'd just like to put this out there so that we have a conversation about this as we go through into this contracts negotiation period. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your patience.
Thank you, Len. Very informative.
I've got a question if I can through the chair.
Yes.
Len, a question. What would you like the community board to do? Would you like to see some indication of support noted, or what? How do you want to? What's the next steps?
In a perfect world, Terry, we would like to see a very strong message sent to council that we want the operation and management of transfer stations to be removed from the contracts process. So it's taken out altogether. If that becomes then a decision that is not made by staff negotiating with private contractors, it becomes a decision made by elected representatives who say, no, we don't want this managed by a private contractor. We don't want it in the contracts process. We want it taken out and we want it managed by the community. Now, it's interesting because these contracts are done as a three-part thing with Hauraki District Council, Matamata-Piako and Thames Coromandel. Both Hauraki and Matamata-Piako have already indicated in the process, in the tendering process, that they are removing transfer stations from the process. They want to take operation of transfer stations back under council control, and then they'll work with the community to make these things happen, because they understand the benefits and the only way that they're going to achieve their waste minimisation objectives is by pulling that back into the community and council or community council partnership. So that's what I'd like, is a clear message sent to council that we don't want this as part of the contract, that we want community control of these operations.
Dean, I've got a question.
Sure.
Do you see the value of Seagull centres? Do you have an opinion about these?
I'm sorry, would you mind repeating, please?
What value do you see in a Seagull operation?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. There are so many benefits to Seagull centres that it's almost hard to list them. And if you look at the work that's been done from the Auckland operations right through to Raglan, Kaikoura, lots and lots of other ones around the country, and also our own ones in Thames and Coromandel, the first thing that you do is you get waste minimisation. You reduce significantly, and I'm talking thousands of tonnes, the amount of material going into landfill. The second thing is that you take that material and you put it back into the life cycle, if you like, of the materials that are being used. Now, every Seagull centre has to have a retail shop. It's a critical part of its operation. That retail shop earns money. That money can do two things. Firstly, it can go back into improving the facility and developing the facility to make it work better. But secondly, that money goes back into the community. These things are operated as charitable trusts. So thousands and thousands of dollars is pumped back into the community rather than building mansions on the waterways. Well, I'm sure that doesn't happen.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for this? All right. Well, thank you again for your time, then.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Now we don't have any other people up for, so we'll move on. Can I have a move in a second, please, for item 2.1? Yeah. The community grant.
Sorry, you didn't get a first and second for public forum.
Yeah, I do.
Sorry.
Point 1, request to retain the 2021-22 community grant. Eileen.
Okay, I'll take the report as being read. Yeah, basically both organisations applied for a community grant to be used in the 2021 year. 2021 year. Due to COVID, the centre on the Pepe as well as the fireworks display, and your fireworks display was not able to go ahead because of the COVID restrictions, so they're just requesting to hold those funds over to the 22-23 financial year to put towards those same events.
Any discussion?
I'm happy to move.
With the part 1, 2, 3.
The whole three, yeah, receive
The whole
it,
three.
approve both the
Receive and approve.
information centre and the fireworks display money be retained and rolled over.
Any further discussion on that?
But that's.
So Terry moves, seconder.
Paying that now or paying next year.
Yeah. Do we have a seconder?
Yep.
Thank you, Kath. All in favour? Carried.
Let's ask a question through the chair to Eileen. Is there any other of those applications that were given for grants not being money taken up yet?
No, they're the only two that have come and asked to retain. Those that have received community grants have got to the end of June to fill in a expenditure declaration to say that they have either spent the grant or they have not.
Okay.
If they haven't, they send it back.
Yes, correct.
Excuse me, a move and a seconder for item 2.2, the discretionary fund application to the Whangamata Community Services.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to this through the chair.
Certainly.
So the community services, it's the Whangamata one that's applying for this over in your area, but it's planned to happen over there. And I think that what they're trying to achieve here is suitable, and if there's money available in the fund, I would support this. They've also applied for some application in Whangamata here, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen, so I'm supporting this for the Whangamata Community Trust to take this forward and make this happen.
We're open to discussion here, folks.
Yeah, I'm a bit sceptical myself.
So will this benefit the Tyrol community also?
Yes, it's for the Tyron community.
So, yeah, so the program that they're going to run is actually going to be run at the Whangamata area school, but the kids that also take up this program are the kids that attend the school from Tairua-Pauanui and Hawaii.
What do you think, Barry? An opinion?
No, I think it's a good one. I was a bit taken aback when through Whangamata came in, but after what I was just said, but never realised that kids are coming all that way, so it seems okay.
Yeah, I think it's around resources, and I think they're sort of leading the pack here, but they're using the school's facilities as well, so
Yeah.
gathering a poetry part of it too, I suppose they are.
No,
It's just the,
well, the program will cover all the kids.
yeah.
Yeah. But, the Tairua-Pauanui and Hawaii kids will get a benefit from it, those ones that attend the Whangamata area school, and others that wish to take part in the program.
Well, I'm not in favour of it. I think, reading through it, we've got, I don't know how many kids actually go to Whangamata area school from Tyron. I don't think there's a hell of a lot. But if we have a problem out there with the mental health and well-being, quite frankly, I don't see Maori wood carving. They say it's a way forward for a possible employment. Well, I'm sorry, I don't see it that way. And I think if we've got a problem with our own youth, then we should retain the funds in our area. And if there is a problem, let's hear about it and let's do something about it.
Yeah.
That's my feeling. I don't see, maybe I'm being selfish here, but
I'm just looking at the list of costs. And a fair hunk of it seems to be wages. So it's not a charitable thing. It doesn't appear to be. But I kind of agree with Warwick.
Through the chair, if I can. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It'd be great to have, if there was a program over there for them, but there's no program over there for them. So what they're trying to do is this group putting this together and including the people from your area as well into it. And I know it's just discretionary fund. So that money's gone by the 30th of June anyway. So if there's another opportunity, you should use it. But this is an opportunity that's arisen. And I think it's got some benefits for what we're trying to achieve, and if nothing else, getting the kids together to have some time to produce some carving. Like if you did something else in contrast to this, I'd say fair enough. But is there anything else out there?
That discretionary fund is a use it or lose it.
Yep.
So it goes, if whatever's left in your discretionary fund come 30th of June, it goes into retained earnings, into your savings account.
Yeah, so we don't lose it.
You don't lose it, it just goes into your
So it
retained
can be
earnings.
used for other things at that stage.
Yeah, so to use retained earnings is a different process again, but it just goes into your retained earnings, yeah.
Well, yeah, just the whole thing about well-being and mental health. I mean, we don't know what's out the next 12 months or 18 months. They're talking all sorts of time frames here. I mean, not only youth, what about our elderly?
Well, sure, if there's something for them, I would support that as well. I've got no trouble supporting these things. There's just not those other things being made available, is there? That I see.
Yeah, well, we haven't got anyone putting their hand up at the moment, but I think it's coming.
Is it?
Well, just people on the street, but someone could lead it. However, the resolution is that we receive it and approve it or decline part of it. Can I have some guidance here? What's the recommendation? Do we give them some money?
I think we should give them some.
Yeah, I can't say anything too bad. I think it's good. You never know what's going to come out of this thing. It's wood carving. It could really get some young kids up and going. Oh, I'm for it.
Okay, well, can I have
Well, I'm happy to move it if you're looking for some.
yeah,
I'll second it.
move which? Part 1 and 2?
Part 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So just to make clear, you're approving to receive the report and you're also approving the full request of $6,450?
Yep.
All right, can I have a vote on that then? Who's in favour?
Aye.
I'll
Against?
abstain.
Abstain?
Oh, no, I never abstain.
Okay. Well, carried, motion carried. Thank you.
I think they'll be very appreciative, so well done.
2.3, the move and second please for the Pauanui Neighbourhood Support Group. Move and second please.
Okay.
Right, discussion. Pretty plain sailing, isn't it, this one? Yeah, they've run into a bit of a problem with the gear. I've got one question about it, and that is, have they got a long-term plan for the relocation of this receiving equipment,
So at the moment, it is still in the Waterways Sales Office, which our property team are working through with Hoppers as to a lease on there. So long-term, those cameras will still stay in there.
The police happy with that?
Well, yeah, they have access. Nothing will basically change for them in the way of access.
And the new people going in there, Waterways are no longer occupying their sales office, so who's going into it?
Well, we don't know yet.
So you don't know if the new people are prepared to get the.
No, so those discussions will need to be had at that time.
Right, okay.
We'll make it a condition
I
of the lease.
don't think they've got any problem with long as they got access to it. but it certainly needs sorting out there over time. It's been going on. I know there's one or two people interested, instead of working from home, just to use it as offices and that type of thing, but it's all up to the air at the moment. But it's the ideal place for it. And if the cameras are recorded and
But these can be monitored anywhere, can't they?
Well, they can have a server somewhere, they can have a system,
So the whole.
and it goes onto his phone, so he can see what's going on, but they need to be able to access that information. So anyway, it just talks here, it's only for the repairs and increased service, it's not about where it is, so it's just really about.
And it's now that they've so Waterways used to cover the cost of the monthly internet rental. So they have, so the Pauanui Neighbourhood Watch now have to pay those
It's
fees.
just latched onto theirs,
Yeah.
onto the back of theirs.
These are really, really valuable pieces of photo for the police.
Talking to Dylan, that's invaluable.
it is. And we've had some right idiots and they've found out in the last couple of months or so.
You go back and they can follow through on things instead of saying, oh, well, we don't know and we'll forget about it. It's really positive. They had a recent burglary in town, he had information, and they went to the cameras and saw a car come to town and another one go out with a different colour car. So they put two and two together and they got them over in Waihi somewhere. So, yeah. Flogged a car from Tyrol, took another one from Waimata.
Yeah, I think we all know the value of cameras, and it's coming up on my members' report. Right, so we're all in favour of,
Let's
we
say,
have a,
I'll move.
move.
I'll second.
Thank you, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried, thank you. 3.1. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? This is the endorsement of the draft Tairua-Pauanui Reserve Management Plan. A lot of reading. Have you all started to read it?
No, I can remember reading it last time I was on the bloody board.
This book. Right. Any additional discovery? Sure, we have a time frame. Faith is Faith.
Yeah, he's going to talk to us.
Yes. Thanks.
Good morning, Faith. Faith.
Good morning. She's not
She's
talking.
definitely there, she's still on mute.
We've got, this is, what did I read about this, a time frame around it.
Reserve Management Act.
Say something.
Good morning, Faith.
There we go. Should be it.
Hello.
Hello. I can't unmute. Can't unmute.
We can hear you, Faith. Can you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I must be unmute now. I had problems unmuting for some reason. I couldn't get my little bar to go off my mute. Good morning. How are you all?
Very well.
That's good. That's good. I have Giles Boundy with us as well. So as you all know, Emma went off and had a baby. She had a baby girl in January, and Giles has picked up the last of the Reserve Management Plan work. So he's from GMD Consultants. So he'll be listening in.
Right.
Cool.
Thank you all, and good morning.
So, okay, we're looking for discussion. We're just going to move this. I mean, there's a lot of reading, and I've got a couple of questions. Well, first question is this an opportunity to possibly change of use or change of zoning?
No, not a zoning. Zoning is district plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what are we doing?
We're just chatting about it.
We're chatting about doing nothing.
No, the reserve management plan. Remember.
So you've had input into it, and I think it's now the time to see the draft or the final draft before it goes out there. I've just got a question if we can through the chair. The Tikaraka, is that how you say it? The Tiraka?
That's correct, yeah, yeah. Tikaraka,
Okay.
yeah.
So I understand that has had some iwi interest, the Ngāti Hei vesting back to council and through the treaty, etc. I read that. When's that going to happen?
How long is a piece of string? My understanding is that there's still stuff to be worked through. I would not, it's hard to say, Terry, and we really don't have any idea. We thought everything would be done and dusted in 2020, but there's been further complications with the settlement. Other parties have come in at sort of the 11th hour, so we really aren't sure, but that's why we've included it in our reserve management plan, because it's going to be BAU. It's not, things aren't going to change for us. It's just that legislative process that has to be worked through. So with our other reserve management plans, we deliberately left out anything that was subject to treaty settlement, because we were sort of thinking along the lines of, well, when they do have when the settlement is finalised, then we'll have to probably create another reserve management plan. This is a little bit different though, because we are basically going to be appointed as the administering body as soon as it comes back to Crown. So it goes back to iwi, and then iwi give it back to Crown within 30 days, and then Crown appoints us again as the administering body.
Okay, so thank you, that clears up that situation a little bit. But at the moment, the land is whose?
At the moment it's Crown's, but we are the administering body.
Oh, it's Crown's, okay. So it's not Ngāti Hei's at the moment, it's Crown land?
Yes,
Right.
And
correct. Yeah.
when it's given over, is it guaranteed that they will give it back? Or
Yes. Yes, they are going to give it back. So that's all been part, and that's been signed in the deed of settlement. So that has actually, that's the deal, so to speak. Yeah.
That's
And the other one I would like to just bring up quickly is the Tyrol Hall at Tyrol.
Yes.
The land around that, understand that one day there might be a development around the bridge and that. Would that land fall under road reserve or NZTA negotiating to buy that piece of land that's involved?
Oh, I can't really say. I'd imagine that it would be part of the road reserve if that was the case. But yeah, just going to flick to that one. Tyrol.
It says the hall was built by the community on State Highway 25 in the 1930s. The road was stopped, invested in council, simple fee.
Yeah. Yep.
But we think there will be some issues around that piece of strip of land maybe in front of it. We'll don't know.
Yeah. It will have to go through some kind of process here, and I'm really not sure what that will be if it happens.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so the land designation won't affect that, it'll just be a discussion at the time.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. There's one other, I'm just thinking about it, which somebody else could speak or.
The Tangimawana Reserve.
Yes.
You have a note there about the possibility of negotiations with various groups. How do you facilitate that sort of a get-together, or?
Can you just direct me to the page in the reserve management plan? I'm operating three screens here.
Yeah, I thought it was 19, but it's not.
So, sorry, it's one of our cultural heritage, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
53, is it?
53.
No one is allowed.
Is it 53, is it? Anyway, it's been a contentious issue for a long time. So I'd like to see some sort of promotion on that thing, or get some answers, or get some, I use the word way forward, but.
What are you trying to get there?
Tree, the Bahutakawa tree, the whole area, the whole area in that piece of reserve land, that involves the trees are on the side of the road, and
will this designation affect that though?
No, so the tree, the one that that there seems to be a lot of angst about is actually on road. It's not part of this reserve, but there is another tree on this reserve where there was some artifacts found, which is already protected, I believe. There's a fence around it, and there's some, I think there might be some signage even, but the tree that people are particularly concerned about is actually on road, and it's not part of this reserve management plan.
I'd just like to see some further development of that reserve. So is this the time to put a submission in about?
We're hoping to go out with this draft reserve management plan and then it will be open to submissions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any other pieces of land that we should be aware of that have maybe been redesignated or changed in some way?
I'm not quite sure what you mean, Terry. Is that redesignated as reserves or?
Yeah, was any reserve moved from, say, active to passive or to?
Active to passive is district plan, so it's not reserve management plan. So that's zoning under the district plan.
What about, say, natural environment and stuff like that? Is that district plan as well?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
You would be well aware that we have, particularly in Tairua, little pockets of absolutely useless reserve land that is covered in wild ginger and all sorts of, that was given in lieu of monetary contributions, I understand, years ago. Do you have a plan for that?
It's difficult because once it's vested as reserve, it's basically what they're saying is that it's public land. So there is a process to dispose of reserve land, but it is a process and it goes through, that whole consultation process, etc., etc. So, I think we've done the exercise before where we've tried to identify areas of reserve land that might be potentially able to be disposed of, and it's quite interesting because once you put it out there, you quite often get lots of people come in and go, oh, that's very special. We've been looking after that, and all sorts of worms come out of the woodwork, so to speak. But Esplanade Reserve is usually vested at subdivision. That's the most common one, and that's the areas I know that you're talking about. And they provide multiple purposes in it, usually to provide access to streams, but it can also be just to preserve the vegetation, the biodiversity, but they can also be, the Esplanade Reserve can also be used to for like erosion, like areas where there might be some. So there's
I refer to the 2014 reserve management. In there are lots of little anecdotal notes about what public are doing. Now, we know that we have one instance where there's been a driveway accessed in there and they've got mature fruit trees in there. And this happens. I mean, what do you do about it? I mean, this particular one, we want to get a walkway into it. And we've already been made aware that there's hackles arising. You know, they don't want their trees, but they're sitting on reserved land.
Yep. So where we do get those kind of issues raised, so where there is encroachment, then we are obliged to do something about it. So if there is structures, landscaping on a piece of reserved land, and we've that issue has been raised with council, then it's up to us to approach the landowner and work through a process of getting those structures or vegetation or landscaping removed. We've got so much of it in the district that in our general policies document, basically what we're saying is that there is so much encroachment across the district that the time and resources that would be required to try and sort that all out is massive. So we're basically working on a reactive. We've taken on a reactive stance, and that's just what I'm saying. Where there's an issue raised, we will set about trying to resolve it. However, we do know that lots of people look after little pieces of land that is reserved technically, but they actually do a really good job. They keep it, mowed and free of weeds, and that's the sort of situation where we tend to sort of say, oh well, let's just leave that. But yeah, definitely when there is a issue raised, we will be dealing with it.
I like that promise.
It does work, because it costs a lot of money for mowing too. So some people.
But some of these are inaccessible, and they are just covered in weeds, which attract rodents.
Well, that's when you want to talk to the neighbours and say, look after it.
Pine tree.
Well, it benefits them if it's nice and clean and tidy, doesn't it? No one else really, because it's just this piece.
Right, to say this particular piece is at least 8, if not 10 years old now. And we have a walk group in Tyron that are endeavouring to put a walkway in here.
Well, that's fair enough. They should get the walkway.
But we're not getting any traction. We're just getting stonewalled. So we need some, I think we're well past the tread nicely, softly approach. We need the heavy hand in here. Okay.
Yep. We'll make sure we've got a reason there.
And that may well come out of the public consultation process from that walking group. If they put in a submission saying that, this is what they want to do, and so this might be the process that actually sets the ball rolling. Otherwise, there is also council's request for service process if there is a outstanding issue with a landowner blocking access, if you like, on a piece of public land. They can always raise a request for service, and that's kind of means that it's recorded and we have to do something about it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Freddie.
I see one stupid little piece, and I think it was Windsor Drive, big enough to have a tree on it, and the tree was removed several years ago.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the reserve's still there.
And they tried to regrow a tree there, and they
Keeps getting chopped down, vandalised, I see.
Okay, any further?
I just got one if I can, boy. It's just all interesting stuff. I noticed there's no areas of dock land around Tyro. Is that right? Is there any, around the foreshores and things like that? But we've got regional council up to high tide, and then we have dock between there and the council reserves. But does all your council reserves run down to the water?
No, not all of them. Definitely not all of them. I think Mary Beach is a classic example. Oh no, sorry, that's road. No, there are definitely areas of marginal strip.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of them mentioned. I just wondered if it was a. Okay.
They won't. Well, if it's not our reserve, then technically they won't be in the reserve management plan for exactly that reason. So, but yes.
But if you see things like Tangu Moana Esplanade, it runs right to the water, doesn't it?
That's right, and that is Crown land.
Is it Crown land?
Yes, but the differing thing is that we're the administering body. So we've been officially appointed as the administering body. So there is an example of,
Yeah.
But if it's outright Crown land, like marginal strip, which you get a lot of in Whangamata, I know, for example, and we haven't been appointed the administering body, then it would not be in the reserve management plan.
Right, gotcha. Okay, yep, that helps that. Explain that, thank you.
Any other questions?
A lot of work, well done.
Yeah.
Urge everybody to put in a submission. Whether we put one in from the board or whether we do it individually, we'll just talk about it. Anyway, thank you. Thank you, Faye.
Thank you.
Item 4.1.
Are we going to pass
So
it?
you're gonna,
Oh, sorry.
You've gotta-
What do we need
you've got
to
to
do?
endorse it.
Oh, happy to
Endorse the solution.
Yeah, once again, council releases draft Tairua-Pauanui Reserve Management Plan.
1 and 2, wasn't it?
Yep,
So someone's moved,
yep.
seconded?
Yep.
Thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Thank you.
And I'd like to table a vote of thanks to the people who've spent their time and effort training the team on this. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
For a lot of work.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the last one, so we're actually we're almost feeling a sigh of relief. Thank you.
You've got another, 7 years, is it? For the next one?
That's right, yeah.
You rest up.
Thank you.
So you're gonna have a couple of days off.
Item 4.1.
Start this on the.
I say, got to get down to it.
Move in a second, please, for the Tairua-Pauanui streetlight renewals. Somebody move?
What is it? We'll get to it.
Oh, there's a document on the issue.
Page 135, is that right?
135.
Yeah. Right.
Rusted through.
Yeah. Okay. Who's anyone speaking to them?
James, party's available.
Yes.
James.
Morning.
Good
Morning,
morning.
board. How are you this morning?
Oh, very good. You're going to tell us why they're rusting out?
Probably the salt. Probably the salt. The coastal.
Some of them aren't that old.
No.
Is the equipment in the country? Like there are.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
The just out of interest, the poles are made in New Zealand, and the units themselves are Italian made. Just out of interest. Quite a neat looking thing.
So it's just a straightforward.
So this has got to go back to council, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you guys want to have it, just put it up and see where it goes.
Yeah.
So all the street lights going in now are the lights are coming down rather than out and about.
Yeah, shovel LEDs,
Yes.
shovel,
Yeah, they flood down.
shovel.
Oh, yeah.
LEDs.
Yeah.
Make
Not
a
much
hell-
pollution.
I know that the resident ratepayers in Tyron have asked me to get a couple put in Windsor Drive, so, or Calgary Drive, Windsor Drive, something. Anyway, that's, I guess we'll get round to that at some stage. So there's no any discussion on that, it's go for a replacement,
Yeah, just
so,
get it done.
Yeah. They haven't got money yet.
no,
Yeah, well, let's start somewhere.
Yeah.
thank you.
Leave it.
We have a move in a second for the resolution, part 1, part 2. All in favour?
Aye.
Thank you, carried. Thank you, James.
Fabulous. Thanks very much.
Item 4.2, move and second, please. Tairua-Pauanui Community Board Win Program. Good morning, Bruce.
Good morning, board.
You're looking very dapper too, I might say. Right.
So yes, so a standard work program in there. Happy to take any questions. We've had a number of delays across the year, not just with this program, but all of them around supply chain disruption and contractor availability to get things going. But as you'll see, there's a lot of stuff which is kind of cresting the top of that kind of steep hill we've had to climb, and things will now start happening, and you'll start seeing a lot more happening on the ground. So happy to take any questions and try and answer them the best I can.
All my notes go.
Want to go through line by line?
Yes, we could do. Start at the top. Well, the library books, that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Nothing. Pauanui playground replacement. July 22, that's in the new financial year.
Is that still on track, Bruce?
It is, except we're going to have to move across. It's going to slide across into the next year.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's going to slip across by a month at this stage, the team is predicting, based on needing to do that consultation with the schools, but also the lead time delays that we've got on getting that equipment. So a lot of the playground equipment actually comes from Europe, and so there's a few delays on getting those things across from the other side.
That harbour renewals, that's not navigation safety or anything, is it?
We're jumping, are we?
Oh,
We were coming down,
we'll get it underway then, it's all right.
the skate park. I hope everyone gets out there and puts in yet another submission.
Yes.
Hopefully that we'll see the end of it. I doubt it somehow.
I'm still sceptical.
March park renewals.
Yeah, the barbecue at the Pauanui, is that still on track?
I believe so. Yes, we haven't had any information.
It's got March here, by end of March. Is it going to be in by the end of March?
That's what the team are saying. Yep, haven't had anything to say otherwise, Terry.
Oh yeah, we just had a comment from the ratepayers about it, so that's good if it's on board. Yep.
We'll get ours one day.
Street lights. So just explain to me the street lights you got. This is the $41,000 one, and the street light renewals, that's the extra funding to make the difference. Is that what it's there for?
Correct. Yeah, that's the extra one that James was just presenting.
James is talking about. That's where it comes in. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Cogan. Where are we with this? Oh, did I mention it? The footpath to the bridge on the main road at home.
Yeah, so that one, as you'll see there, the NZTA have approved the Hogan footpath, which is the way that we can achieve it with the budget that we've got, especially the reduced budgets, without having the additional subsidy that we normally would attract from NZTA in previous years. Ed has reviewed and accepted the design, so so everything's moving forwards in that regard. I don't know if Ed's in the room. He might be able to provide a little bit more detail than I have on hand.
He's hiding, but he's here.
Ed is here.
I'm in the room, Bruce. The works are scheduled for, if I remember rightly, March and April. So
Which side of the bridge, the north side or the south side?
it would be the north side. We don't have sufficient funding for the south side. So through the road.
Well, the north side is, it's already nice smooth grass there.
Yeah.
It's the other side that's a problem where people are actually walking on the side of the road.
That's what I thought we were talking
That's what I
about.
thought we were talking about, yeah. We did discuss it at some stage.
We did discuss it, and if I recall correctly, and again, Ed might jump in, it's quite a substantial cost, and so there's quite a bit, you don't have the budget for that at this stage, so that would need to be a specific project that you'd want to motivate to move forwards, and so you'd need to then have that budget in place for it. If and again, if I'm not correct on that, Ed, just jump in.
No, that's correct, Bruce. The other reason we're doing the north side as well is we want to try and catch any cyclists that may be on State Highway 25, get them onto the bridge on that side of the road. It's easier for us to do it from that side at the moment.
But then they come off that bridge and back onto the main road
On the
again.
main road and get skittled, yeah.
Unfortunately, yes.
Oh, I don't see the sense in that. I don't know why you've got a bridge put there.
No, didn't NZTA put the bridge there?
They did, yes.
And without really any talk about it, they just all of a sudden it appeared?
It's been discussed with NZTA as to how they prioritise that bridge, yes.
Prioritise some other bridges.
So to progress that on the southern side, tell me, Bruce, what's involved?
So I think Ed and the team will need to do some numbers. I think they've done some rough numbers on that, but they need to work out what the numbers were, get a design done, take it through to that stage, so then we can actually advise the board on how much it's going to cost, if there's opportunities to stage it if it's too much, and then look at how you fund it, whether you do an out-of-cycle budget for that at some stage, or whether you try and put it into a future year's program. That would be the process.
God damn. It won't go down very well at home, tell you.
No.
To me, it's a major safety health concern. All right, well.
Can we get some budgeting done?
To construct on the south side?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we know what we're up against.
We are working on those costs at the moment to try and find out what we need to do. Unfortunately, to link to the existing footpath, there's another stream that needs to be crossed.
Yeah.
Which is a fairly large culvert that would need to be constructed to enable us to build the footpath. Also, the actual bank.
Well, it actually comes under the road, so you just extend the pipe.
Yeah, we extend the pipe, yeah, but that is a transport agency pipe, it's not ours. We could do it on their behalf. It gets fairly messy. There's the other issue as well, that the side of the road there is elevated above a floodplain. So we actually need to build out probably about 1 metre to 1.5 metres to enable us to build the path by the side of the road and still get clearance on the from the edge of carriageway.
So you wouldn't consider a boardwalk?
That's one of the options we're looking at, yes.
Because there's been 2 big culvert pipes lying out there since the year dot. You would have noticed those if you go around.
The problem is the agency don't like boardwalks within the state highway.
Well, we're going to try and resolve this because the bridge is pretty much useless.
Just a question from me to Ed. When do you think you'll be able to bring those numbers back to the board, Ed? Just not to put you on the spot, but yeah.
Should be able to do it by the next meeting. We are working on them at the moment.
I think the disappointed through the chair, if I could say, Bruce, is that the bridge did arrive without a lot of discussion with the board. And now we're going to find the funding to put a path in when they've cancelled their funding for the next 3 years. It all seems a little bit suck and see to me. It's just a bit disappointing, really.
Well, NZTA put nothing towards it.
No, they're going to drop their subsidies, haven't they?
Yeah, no, I understand the frustration, board, and I realised there wasn't a lot of discussion with the board or any discussion with the board from NZTA before that bridge went in. There there was very little, if any, discussion with staff, TCDC staff about that either. So it wasn't like we had any opportunity to try and make anything different happen before that bridge went in. So yeah, it did catch us all off guard a little bit.
To me, it's just a big compromise.
There was a suggestion made by somebody that I was discussing with one day that perhaps the landowner might lease us a strip of land along there to get a path away from the highway, but that might be worth.
Well, we did try and get a walk path across that particular piece of, across that piece of farmland, but it fell over. Negotiations, he wouldn't fence the stock, and it just made it far too. So that was pulled. So we're back to here again. All right. Well, we'll just keep nipping away at it.
Yeah, I think my advice to you, Board, is that you'd stay in the road corridor. Whilst that does take a bit of time and effort for Ed and the team to work that through, I think if we can avoid crossing private land, I think that'll be simpler in the long run. So.
Will they do anything if we call it a cycle path? Spend an awful lot of money on cycle tracks, cycle paths up Northland.
The actual bridge itself was put in as a cycle path bridge. It's an avenue I'm discussing with the agency. That's all I can say at the moment.
That's delicate.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I know our residents will be pretty upset about this, but we're trying. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, if I look to the next one, the car parks, as I mentioned, when you look at those construction, the Tyrol Ocean Beach Road curb and channel. Is this number here, Bruce, that's the 300, is that the quote, or is that the money that was available?
That was the money that was available, Terry.
What is the quote?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I don't know if Ed knows it, but yeah, I don't have that detail, sorry, right now.
There's a report.
There's a report coming up.
No, further, that's just it, sorry.
Yeah, it's under public excluded, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you, boat ramp.
How far down the track are we at this? Who's doing this, Bruce? Is this
Which one was that? Sorry, Terry, I missed that.
the Paku boat ramp? Who's doing the design on that one?
I don't know who's doing the design, but obviously Ellen Cooper, who works for Derek and the community facilities team, she's managing that. She'll be managing all the consenting with the regional council. But yeah, I don't off the top of my head who's actually doing the design. It won't be very complicated, obviously, but I can find out and come back to the board.
So they're saying expected by the end of June, so they don't get anything in this year, are they?
There's no construction this year, no. So that's trying to get it legalised, to make sure the structure is legalised, and which means we can do maintenance and stuff a lot easier than we can at the moment. So consented and authorised.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Harbour renewals you want to talk about, Chris?
Oh yeah, was the harbour renewals, was that anything to do with nav safety?
Anything to do with, sorry?
Is anything to do with navigation safety?
Unlikely, I would say. I would say that would be more to do with ramps and the wharves.
Okay.
Yeah, maintenance, huh? Is required.
These are the capital budgets, you remember, so they're not the operational budgets, so any maintenance wouldn't come out of these. These are capital construction budgets.
Okay.
Pauanui. Fitness equipment. And we can't hear.
Full of money going into fitness equipment, Randy.
So we're just waiting together for the gear to come into the country, are we, for the Kennedy Park?
Correct, yeah.
Held up again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When is it expected to arrive?
I don't know when it's going to arrive, but the team are saying that the project will be completed by the end of this financial year, so by 30 June.
Kennedy Park, tennis courts.
Bruce, I haven't, you gave me some information on Holland Street, Holland Close it is. Could you maybe inform the meeting from that discussion? I haven't read that out to them yet. I've had it here in black and white that you sent to me, but do you want to just update them?
I don't have it on hand, but I can quickly try and find it, Terry. Did I email it to you?
Yeah, you emailed to me, yeah.
The meeting got cancelled the other day, folks, for that.
I just thought you could give them that brief. I could read it out myself if you want me to, but
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe. I'm trying to find it in my emails, but I can't find it, Terry.
okay. I'll see if I can find that for you.
Stop whispers on of this thing.
I had one of the residents round there approached me the other day, said some trees and some rocks had a number put on them. Any idea what was all that about?
Making sure nobody's stealing.
Somebody from Atataki Rise had said that they're back onto the Eldon stream and they've noticed somebody's put numbers on some rocks and some trees. And I've approached Lou Mackall about it and he's approached somebody else. I haven't got anything back yet.
I would imagine that's work they're looking at doing to make sure they're keeping the channel clear in the Holland stream.
Yeah.
So that'll be through Andy, our Three Waters field rep would be managing that work, I would say.
It's certainly been a long, drawn-out bloody process.
Yeah, it is.
Well, we haven't had any problems as far as I know with flooding or anything like that in the last few weeks now with the heavy rain and wind and everything.
No, we've dodged a few. Certainly. They talked about ridiculous money for a start there. So did you find your email?
Oh, actually, I haven't got a quote, but I'll give you a quick update. Ian Smith is doing some work with Holland Close on the consent that's supposed to be lodged. He was telling me that he had one small parcel of land that he was dealing with one of the neighbours to sign off, and then that consent would be lodged within the next week. But I didn't hear that the meeting was actually cancelled, was it?
One the other day.
Right, so that's this update from Ian last week, so I don't know any further from that, but he was assuring me that consent would be lodged in a very short time, so that's the update that I have.
So what are they actually looking at doing? I'm reading this bit of detail here about.
It's the resource consent to keep it clean.
Yeah, it's looking at reprofiling the banks and making sure the channel got additional capacity in it to carry that water. And to obviously do that, we need to get a resource consent from the regional council. And there's lots of requirements, as you would imagine, to get that resource consent. So it's quite a lot of work, and the team have been busy on it. So that's what that's all about.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything other matters arising off those work program? Well, thank you, Bruce.
No problem. Thank you, board.
Somebody move a second that we received the works program. Moved. Seconded. In favour? Aye. Okay. Action schedule 5.1. Moving to seconder. Ready to move. Second.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. Any discussion?
What's left to do? It's got one here. Board requested details about the materials and design for the new Paku boat ramp. So that's coming out of Derek's team, is that right, Eileen?
Yeah, that would be.
Have we seen any design of that? Have there any been draft design?
Through the chair, if I could just jump back in, So that's coming to your April meeting, the design for that. And obviously the construction won't be this year for that. That's that one we just talked about, the Paku boat ramp. So design and consenting this year. More details back to you guys in April, and that's the update on that one.
Historic places. Yeah. I read that bit about the holding path.
I think if we put a path on that north side, we're going to get bloody land basically.
4 years. Additional indications, we're looking for 4 years for the footpath to the bridge. Shit.
Is that all?
Okay. You know, the matters are rising out of that action schedule? If not, already moved that we receive the action schedule, please. Seconded? In favour, thank you. Thank you, Bruce. Members' reports, 5.2. Who wants to kick this off?
I'll start if you like.
Thank you, Kath.
It's been a pretty quiet summer for me so far, although I did have a couple of messages from some of our community members about the state of the stone wall down at Nana's Beach. Obviously in a bit of disrepair. I've got photos and things like that which I will send on, but it looks to me like that needs to be popped onto our radar somewhere before it disintegrates into nothing.
Is that the retaining, the retaining wall?
Yeah, it just needs some repairs done on it before it collapses. So I've had some concerned community members come to me on that one, but aside from that, there's nothing else for me to report.
Bruce?
Oh, yeah. Bruce,
yeah. Bill Bruce with someone else on it, yeah.
Jim Mason?
Yeah. Right, you finished? Yeah.
Thank you, Kath.
All right. Well, I went over to the council meeting in Brookie's absence when they were doing the discussions about the skate park, and there wasn't too much discussion. It just sort of whistled through, really. I was quite shocked. But anyway, it's important to us, but not to other people.
I think it's important.
Yeah. I've had an awful lot of comments about the state of the reserves in Tairua, and I assume Pauanui is having the same problem with the contractors. They're pretty fly by night. They whistle in, whistle out, leave lots of long-haired grass around the place, and I noticed the edges of the reserves where it goes into bushes slowly creeping out. It would be nice to see them get around the edges of the reserves with a weed eater. I believe they've been in discussions all over the whole Coromandel, but anyway, it needs to be something that needs to be addressed. And what else did I have? Something else there, but anyway, I'll get to that. So that'll do me for now. Oh, there is something. Mowing the edge of the banks. I believe that's roading. The banks where the trees encroach over the road. Yeah, they came and did some in Gallagher Drive the other day. They did about half of it. After that storm the other day, there's a bunch of trees come down in Gallagher Drive right over the footpath. They've been sitting there for a fortnight now. In the old days, we had a townsman that would have gone around and cleaned that up. But now we don't have one. And I believe Rob, the guy that was our townsman, has resigned, so now everything comes from Whangamata. So it seems like Tairua just about doesn't exist. It would be nice to see a bit of effort put in by the contractors. Sure, they might have saved us $1 million, but man, I think we're getting $1 million less work. So, can we work at chasing those people up?
No problem.
Generally, I don't got a lot of respect for the local guys, but yeah, things aren't that flash. Yeah, okay, thank you, that'll do me.
Yes, I'm the same with Chris. I'm still getting complaints regarding the contractors regarding cutting the grass and clearing stuff up and so on and so forth. It seems to be an ongoing thing. It's been a fairly quiet time, actually, but the last couple of weeks got a bit busy. I met up with Lou Mackwell regarding the trees from Pleasant Place to Royal Billy. And one of the neighbours there, he's a very good, proactive guy. Feel sorry for Lou. At times he had a lot of problems with people wanting better views and their opinion better views, and vandalism going on and so forth. It's a hard job. Made a hard job a different role. But I've got a few concerns as regarding places that are coming on the agenda. The next place is the new development in Pauanui, and they've got a big medium strip between on the road, and people are ducking over the medium strip rather they want to go out of the town from where they live. They have to go down quite a bit, then up the road, but some of them are going straight over the medium strip.
Where are we talking about?
Lynette's place, it's a new development.
Where is that?
Green.
Is that from Hopper Memorial, was it?
Right.
I don't know what the council can do about it, to be quite honest with you.
Oh, where they're coming out back onto Vista Park?
Yeah.
Or onto Settlement Road?
Yeah.
They just drive straight up that bank?
Yeah.
Well,
There's
Bollards.
Bollards, yeah.
I love bollards.
There's a new place going up, Opera's Lookout, which is just outside Pauanui. And they put in a lookout up there, put in a road, well, not a road, or a pathway up there. I'm a bit concerned as regarding if it gets really popular, people are going there. They won't be able to drive up there, or take it, but they need somewhere to park cars or the bikes and goodness knows what. There'll be access way to MX bikes and so on. So I'm just bringing it up just to give, a heads up on it for the staff to have it, just bear it in mind if anything can or will be done. And also had, on the last week or so, regarding where the information centre and the library has walking access way to the shopping centre. They've got on the walkway, if you like, lower the access ways into it so people with prams, walkers, etc. can go on and off the road without any trouble. But they've inquired if there's any possibility of having some yellow stripes put on the road, just so that people can, well, I know one or two people are a bit short-sighted these days and having trouble seeing it. And then they also give a bit of guidance for cars coming around the corner.
I'm talking about opposite the church in that area there, eh?
Yeah, opposite the church, across from the info centre.
Yeah, across from the hub, from the community hub across the road.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
More bollards.
Pedestrian.
well,
Yeah. I thought there was some, no, it's not, there's no marks on the road, is it?
No.
and still wondering what's happening as regards the office sales room, the old sales room there, what's happening?
Salesman.
Yeah, you know,
Yes, got it.
right at the beginning of the
Top of the waterways.
Oh.
Yeah.
I know property have been dealing directly with hoppers, so I'll follow up with property as to where they've got with that.
Yeah.
Because we, do we own the toilets underneath the council?
I'm not sure. They are public toilets.
Yeah.
There are. And just as well, you probably know, we've had quite a few incidents in the Pauanui Bond, bit of thieving going on, e-bikes and so on and so forth to the property. Yeah. Goodness knows what. It's been very, very busy at times. Very, very busy.
Bit of strife over Christmas with a bit of vandalism and stuff.
You know, the darling kiddies come down at times. I'm a bit worried in case I get some bruises on the knuckles. Oh, yeah. All right.
I suppose you steal an e-bike, it's not a bad score for some of them, because they can sort of range up to 8 to 10 grand.
Thank you, Barry. Continuing on with Chris's opening about the mowing, virtually since the new Parks and Reserve contractors have begun, it's abysmal, and I'm being polite when I say that. The frequency of the mowing, the length of the cut, and the area of the walkways that's not been cut are the most concerned. People are stopping me, I tell you, every second person's having a crack at me now.
Yeah.
Even when they are being cut, they're not mowing all the walkways, as Chris has mentioned before, the edges, they seem to be going down the centre of the walkways and they're leaving the sides. Now, surely they've got a scrub bar or something they can clean this up with. We've been away for 3 weeks and when we came back following that rain, now I know the growth was just phenomenal. They have been once, they have cut part of the town and they have disappeared off the radar. I don't know where the hell they've gone, but they've just vanished. So another area is below the hall. Now you can put a baler in there now and bail this up. I mean, they're not getting in there, they have just not cut it. Now, look, the previous contractor did a marvellous job. Never had a problem. Now these guys, I'm telling you, they've got to do something about it. And the sooner the better.
I actually had a occasion the other day, Jimmy flew in my car, and I've known Jimmy for about 50 years. And he was the guy that mowed the lawns for Street Smart for 20 odd years. And he's horrified at what they're not doing around the town. So I think somebody like Lou perhaps should go and pick Jimmy up and take him round. Yeah. And just,
they need to see. I mean, there's areas where I live, and the stuff, I tell you what, it's half a metre high. So
I actually, we had the same issue with us with the growth going around town and the lack of work, so I went and saw them. And he told me quite clearly that they've only got 2 mowers between here and Tyrol. And I said, what happened about that? Well, they thought they were going to get more when they came in, but whether the smart took them, I don't know. So at the moment, they've got to pack the mowers on a truck and take them over to your guys and mow and come back here. And he says, over Christmas, New Year, they couldn't even get back and forth because of the traffic, so they didn't do them. So I do think it's time's come on long enough that somebody needs to rattle their cage a bit and say, if you haven't got the gear, get the gear, because there is a common theme that they aren't getting onto that work as good as they should have. And the town started to look what's scrubby, eh?
Oh, it's been going on for a long time now. You can't use the excuse that they don't know now. They've been there long enough, they should know.
Yeah. Now, another area outside our new or relatively new ablution block in the centre of town, there is a row of bollards that have a large rope threaded through them. Currently, it's on the ground. So it needs attention, it needs to be retention and sorted out, because people are just walking through the gardens. So please, can we have some action there? Now, I have attended the usual meetings of the information, the heritage, and resident ratepayers, hall committee, which I've got tomorrow night. And I don't know whether this has been attended to, but they are still bitterly upset about receiving a rates and insurance bill for a building owned by the council. How are they going to get sorted?
They can apply for a grant for that, or the community board can make a decision on it, can't they?
It depends on what's in the lease, which would have to follow up with property.
I have heard that the bowling club got some relief, so I'm not up to speed with what's happened, but I know that
Money going around really, you know.
well, you know, the last couple of years, the use of the hall has been much reduced because of the influence of COVID. You know, they got a bill for about $7 grand. You know, they don't make that sort of money.
No.
The information centre, I should say that, you know, the COVID, the hall committee have made some big efforts to control the deep cleaning and the like for the people that do use the place. Same with the information centre. They've been on the ball with the COVID awareness and the compliance. Now the CCTV cameras in town, and that's rearing its head again. We need to get this cracking. There's enough interest in town. They want it. I know the police want it. I'm hoping that the Tairua Information and Community Services pick this up and become the trustees for it. But I'm just making you aware that we're going to endeavour to get this thing up and running.
Absolutely.
I've heard today that they are the advantage of having them. I know we've got one on the bridge, but I'm not quite sure how the contractual system of that is, but we need to get some traction on this. I'd like someone to advise me on the no swimming sign that was put up by the regional council at the Manaia Causeway. It's still there, contaminated, E. coli and the like. Now, I understand it was on the radio. I don't know where the contamination come from. I haven't heard a damn thing about it.
There's no farmland, or there's a little bit, but yeah.
There's only horses, cattle in there, but I'd like to know what the story is with it and what they're doing about it. If it is a sewage problem, then we need some action, and pretty quick, I would imagine, because downstream from that Manaia Causeway is Nana's Bay, and a very popular swimming place. So is this contamination finding its way downstream? I'd like to know.
I'll follow that up with WRC.
Now, another resident has told me over Christmas that there was an extremely noxious smell coming out from a large stormwater pipe into the drainage area in Willow Grove, which in turn, of course, feeds into the Manaia Causeway. Now, I went and had a look at it. I asked the person, was there obvious signs of sewage? They said no, but it was a very bad smell.
Something's dead.
I'll follow up with WRC.
Could you smell anything? No, my smelling abilities deteriorated over the years, sorry.
You smell that.
You can smell a rat then.
But hey, if there's a contamination like that, we need to know. Now, I followed up on Councillor Terry's suggestion that we look at the local government New Zealand newsletters that are coming out pretty frequently. And it was quite an impressive set of documents with the shake-up of, the proposed shake-up by central government on our day-to-day operations of local and regional councils. And I hope you've all read them, because I think it's going to have some massive influence on what the future for councils are. Yeah. And as far as at this board, in talking to previous community board members, it's a fact that, in my opinion anyway, that over the years, successive councils have seen fit to gradually depower our roles and responsibilities of community boards. It's my opinion that given the current level of concern and distrust that prevails in New Zealand today, our council should be paying more attention to assisting local communities when making decisions that directly affect the well-being of all our communities during these trying times. Let's get back to the basics. Look after our parks and reserves, enhancing them, and where possible, increasing them. We need more green open spaces to provide areas for future sporting, recreational and family-orientated activities. That's me.
Plenty there.
I'm in a grizzly mood.
That's good.
Fair enough too.
It's a new year, let's get into it.
Let's get it in.
Okay, so I've got a few things to tell you all about my life at council and what's going on there as well. So just to carry on from what Warwick said, there is a roadshow coming to council on the 28th of this month, and they're there to talk about the new proposed local government concept for the future. Their focus are 5 key points that they would like to shift the current local government into. So they want to strengthen local democracy, stronger focus on well-being, authentic relationships with hapu, iwi and Māori, genuine partnerships between central government and local government, and more equitable funding. So they are the workshop that's going to be held on the 28th for a couple of hours, between 2 and 4. And you'll see there's no looks of infrastructure in there. We're moving more into a well-being situation, and health and well-being and local community stuff seems to be a focus of where the direction's sort of heading. So that's on that day, and it really raises a point which was raised this morning through Len with the waste minimisation and communities taking charge of what will be left for the local communities to look after. Will be maybe roading, maybe not, we'll see about that. But definitely waste will become an issue, and the cost of it was going up. Well, they said last year it was going to go between 30 and 60% rise in waste charges of landfill. And I think there's an opportunity, if this community board wants to do it, to make a voice heard and put a motion on the books to support what Len's doing and letting the communities run those transfer stations and bring some of that material back into use around the community and save waste to landfill. So that is something that I'd like to see happen if we've got the appetite today. The other ones I want to talk about is the Torah Skatepark. As you've heard the story, the Bureaus have done a fairly detailed 150-page document on the consultation process to date. And then that formal consultation asks the community if it agrees with the proposed location, will open on the 14th of February and run till the 8th of April. So that will be going back to the community and making sure that the decision that's been made at council is in line with the community's decision. Coming up, guys, is the annual plan consultation. In the annual plan consultation, there's a whole lot of stuff, but the key ones that you need to consider are the wharves and the boat parking charges. It has risen its head again. And it's talking about a cost of launching your boat and parking your boat. And these will apply to your boat ramps in the area and at Pauanui, which currently don't have them. They do talk about the cost of these being part of currently picked up by the ratepayer. And are saying that the money that these charges will collect will stay within the communities. I don't know whether that means within the Tairua-Pauanui community as a whole or separately. That is yet to be my understanding of how it's going to be collected and how it's going to be kept. And also you've got some really discussion to have with your community about whether you think this is a good idea or not. I know there's real issues around parking and trailers and all that sort of stuff.
Very big issue.
And you're already paid for what you've had through your local rates anyway, but that's up to you to discuss with them. So those consultation period starts on the 11th of March to the 11th of April is consultation on the annual plan. The 2nd to the 4th is of May is the hearings. The 31st the council will do some deliberations, and the 28th of June the council will sign off that annual plan. Inside all that, there's a capital works program. And the capital works program this year was a big call. So big, in fact, there's going to be something like $20 million of work that's not going to be completed. And that is going to have to come back to council for a discussion on where that work's going to be done and how much of it's going to be rolled over into the next year. Also added to that, we had a 3.5% inflation figure we put in. That's been told to increase that to 5.2. And that's added, that additional money has been added to those capital projects, which of course automatically pushes them up there. So there's some big numbers in here, and there's going to be some winners and losers in this, and that discussion will happen over the next few months, and we'll find out who they are when that happens. Shoreline management plans. There was supposed to be one on the 10th of February, which bringing the key people together. That was cancelled, and it's moved out till March. This is a three-year program, I think it was. So that's all coming to its fruition, and the coastal panel's input has been really fantastic in terms of offering the advice from a local knowledge perspective. That will be put into a big pot, and out of that will come a plan, and then that plan will be some triggers. And I don't think they've worked out the money around it. Some are talking $1 billion, some are talking all sorts of money, but there'll be some sort of plan, money attached to that in time, I'm sure. So yeah, big thanks to all those community people who stood up and put their ideas forward for that. Freedom camping. We do not have a freedom camping bylaw at the moment. We missed the boat on reviewing it, and it's passed, so there's no actual law in place at the moment. But there is going to be a new look at it this year, and most probably coordinated around the government's looking at it as well. We might come out with some ideas that we'll be able to consider when we look at our own freedom camping. But all those submissions that were put forward last year will be kept over and dragged into this consultation period and discussion. I'm sure that they'll be able to hear the views of you people and what should work and what's not. It's one interesting, really. If you look now at the TIF funding, which is the tourist infrastructure funding, has put in quite a few $1 million into putting facilities around the Coromandel for freedom camping and people to use. So it'll be interesting to see how they forge that understanding of where they're going with freedom camping. They're talking about only having, what's the right word? Vehicles that are self-contained vehicles. We're interested to see whether that happens or not. So that's one of the discussions.
It already is the rules, I think.
That's it.
I'm a self-containment officer.
Yeah, but I think you can drive a van around now without a toilet and stay somewhere, though.
If it's got a toilet, it's self-contained. The new rules will say that it's got to be fixed. It can't be a porta potty that you can take out. You've got to be able to use it while your bed's made.
Right. But what do you do about a vehicle that has no toilet in it and they want to sleep tight somewhere?
Go to motel.
But anyway, so it's all just very suspicious. Not a lot of motor camps.
No, I know, but that's right.
So that'll be
the NZMCA.
Yeah, but that's what they want, but what the people want. So there's going to be quite a
submissions in. I thought.
Yeah, the submissions were put in. They're going to hold those submissions over and bring them into discussion this time because TCDC didn't review its policy within the period of time, so it's lapsed. So we're going to.
What is that?
So does that say the rules? There's no rules now.
There's no rules at the moment.
You freedom camp where you
How
like.
did that slip through?
Oh, it was just to do with timing on the island, and there was some timing issue with it. When it was 2014, it was done, and it should be done in 2021.
Yeah.
And they missed it. So, yeah, so I don't know.
I don't know why for 3 months freedom camping.
I understood that currently our ratepayers pay, and I understand I'll be corrected here, about $45 towards the harbours, wharfs and.
What's that?
Isn't it about $45?
For what though?
Part of our rates that go towards the Tyro water.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you pay. I think it's $54. I think I've got the number here.
It was quite an amount.
Yeah, there was some numbers there. Yeah, I had some numbers. Yeah. Here we go, it's $49.38 each. Yeah. So it goes currently towards
I
it.
suppose we want-
Every ratepayer pays that. Yeah.
So now that things are built, it's not costing that much to maintain them.
No, so it's up for discussion.
Well, that's what the harbour fees are, the launching fees are, that's what it's all about, the use and pay thing, isn't it? That's,
Well, the money's retained within the area, so you keep those funds to do other things, improve them or build some parking bays or something like that. I don't know what they're going to do with them.
Reclaim Parku Bay.
reclaim land, yes,
Reclaim.
boat trailer parking.
That's
Yeah,
it.
I love it.
So my last one is the transport plan for the Southeast Ward. This was asked for, there's $10,000 in the book and I haven't seen any action on it and I'm still trying to see that. Is this under your,
Sorry, transport plan.
the transportation plan put out through regional council with the $10,000 with tennis step? They were going to do a survey
Yes.
of the two boards, understanding whether they were supporting this or not. Is that, how far down the track is that?
I placed that with the regional council, spoke to them actually last week. They are getting on with that and hope to have some things done in mid-March.
Okay, that's good.
We're already knocked the back once, haven't we? Or twice.
Well, it's been round and round. Isn't the council debate about the one they're running in Thames, is it still running?
Yeah, and the local paper and all.
Extending it to Coromandel.
Yeah, up that side of it, yeah. It's really valuable for them over there.
Didn't get much traction here, we didn't really approach Hauraki about it. Hauraki.
No, it hasn't gone out to all the people, but we're talking about.
We did go
That's
to
why
Hauraki, but Ed's following all that up.
Right, good on Ed.
I can give you a briefing after the committee meeting on what's going on with that.
Fine, thank you.
Sorry, what was that, sorry?
I can give you an update briefing on all of that after the committee.
Okay, that's great, yeah. We talked I just, some notes out of Pauanui here for me, Barry, but we talked about the bar out here, out of the entrance of Tairua-Pauanui, and the amount of sand that's coming around the corner and causing no launching boats 2 hours each side of low tide, and how to deal with it. And then the ISO, we're talking about moving the Coast Guard across the other side, and then all the people, volunteers that got to row, we get into it, we get to sea, so there's a bit of concern.
I thought the option was to take it up to the waterways.
Well, I even think that's, so there's a lot of discussion.
Pleasant place,
Yeah.
Pleasant Point program.
Even that's getting nice.
Yeah. So there's some issues there that we're working through about cutting a line through the bank, through the bar and seeing them sort of flush it out and all those things. And re-nourishing the beach.
Mother Nature, you can't wait.
Anyway, I'll keep you up to date.
Okay.
The elections are coming up this year, for those who don't know.
When are they?
Tell you the dates. The 1st of October, you've got to give your consideration to candidate. The 15th, the nominations open. The 12th of August, they close. The final electoral roll is 12th of September. Voting closes on the 8th of October, and results on the 14th of October.
When are the nominations?
They open up on the 1st of October, and they 1st of October 21 consider being a candidate, yeah, and then 15th of July they open, sorry.
Yeah.
Don't know why it's got. Yeah, 15th of July. 15th of July, sorry. Yeah.
For Chair, just as I'm taking on the Deputy Electoral Officer role this year, and so your board will have a brief update coming in early March about what's going on, where we're up to, etc. So just.
That's great, well done. That's good. The other one with this is concerned about how do we get this information out to our ratepayers who have a right to enrol and get a vote and to have it included. So we've asked them to try and put something into the rates demand and also put it out onto the websites and all those people. There's quite a few people connected, getting the newsletter from TCDC. Yeah. Put that, just a little list of how they do it. If they've got their address in Auckland, because they want their doctor and their lawyer to stay there, they often will keep it there and won't, and they just need to enrol for these particular things. Last one, getting there, oh, 2 to go. Sirens, you heard about sirens being an issue, and there is still a sort of desire to put some sirens in Pauanui. I don't know about Tyron. Have you heard any more about Tyrol?
Absolute waste of money.
So working away on that, I just give you an update that we've been working with this project called Whisper. And Whisper is another communication system that's been put together by the Civil Defence New Zealand and our local Civil Defence emergency system is putting it into place now, setting up now with TCDC people on it already, and it will ring you and keep the phone ringing regardless of whether you there or not, to make sure people are connected who aren't in areas of good communication or internet connection. So it's be quite a, and it's an opportunity for everybody else to hook onto it. And I think it's quite a good system that replaces those ones where there's concerns of sirens not getting to people's ears and all that kind of stuff. The last thing is that you'll know that Rob Williams, our CE, is leaving. He leaves officially on the 3rd of March. We've got a selected acting CE. We're going to some interviews today, tomorrow maybe, and then on Wednesday we'll be announcing that acting CE who will take us forward until we start the process of selecting new chief executive. Just check we've got it all here. Blah 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 blah. That's enough blah blah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Terry. I agree. It is difficult to get people onto that teaching issue webpage. You know, frequently I ask at home, do you belong, are you friends with them? No. Wouldn't waste time, no. I mean, how do you get the information out there? It is a constant struggle, isn't it?
And when you get the things, you don't have to read them all, you just rip through them and say,
it's all there, isn't it?
It's all there.
Everything I want to know.
The weekly updates are fantastic, I reckon, really good. The woman does a great job.
All right, thank you.
So I would like to, sorry to carry on, oh, that's been the report, stop it. I was going to talk about the waste motion I'd like to put on the books.
You do that now before we move.
In the members' reports or after the members' reports? I want to put a motion on the books to support the waste management minimisation to have communities run these transfer stations. And if the board's interested to support it, I'd like to have it as a recommendation for council to pull that contract out of the WMMP.
Same contract, picking up the garbage and carting it away from the transfer stations, leaves it too open for fiddling.
What? Transfer stations doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's what we want to do. We want to fiddle with it and take out the good
No, we
stuff.
don't want to fiddle, we don't want the contractor to fiddle it though.
The contract will fiddle it.
That's what's been happening.
Yeah, well, that's what we want to stop.
And I think that'll come out in the next 2 weeks.
We're just checking, just to make sure because you're doing a notice of motion.
Yes.
I think you have to give.
You have to give prior notice of it, but we're just checking that process.
We can't raise a motion at a meeting.
Member must give notice to the chief executive at least 5 working days before the meeting at which it is proposed to consider the motion. The notice is to be signed by not less than 1/3 of the members of the local authority, including vacancies.
Raise the motion at a meeting.
I'm just
You can
checking
stand in
that.
English now. You can stand.
I'm in there, yeah.
No.
Can we put that on the next meeting?
Just waiting for confirmation.
Yeah, we're not looking for a report or anything like that. It's just
Should this
support.
not go to a public thing, we'll stir it up and put it out there? Is that
Oh, I think it'll grab
It'll go out.
It'll grab some legs as it gets out
But I
there.
mean, when does the contract change? July?
It's already started.
Yeah, so I mean, are we too late?
No, not too late. They said that there is flexibility within the project, in the contract, so, but we don't want to muck around with it. It's something if it leaves it too long, we'll miss out.
Yeah.
So we're sort of at the front gate at the moment. It's going to turn up the back gate if we're not careful.
And what's it? What happened at council? I mean, is this quite around the table?
Is that
That's been presented to council, and council's going to and we had discussion at table about it. And Bruce said that there would be flexibility in the contract, but we need to have some action now.
Yeah.
To do something. Sorry, what's that?
Can't raise motion through the members' report, we're just waiting for one more. Right.
What do you think, Kath?
Yeah, 5 days of writing is.
It's got to be 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think we should get behind that. Absolutely.
Think our community get behind it?
I think the community will get behind it, yeah.
So can I raise a motion that it's raised at the next meeting? And that we.
So we'll read through that
Can you
process.
in your members' report as an action, maybe?
Yeah.
We can do it as an action and we'll go through that notice of motion process with you after the meeting.
So you want that officially said, or how you want to do it?
We'll follow it up with it after the meeting. Esther's got notes of it there.
Okay, all right. Is everybody in line with this? This is just me supportive of this, what we're trying to do?
I think everybody's quite pleased the way the transfer station's working at the moment. Yeah.
I don't think you'd be very happy the way ours is operating. I don't know how Pauanui's is going, but ours is a bit shambolic.
Yeah, I see the other day they had an audit coming up. So all of a sudden the place gets tidied up. Instead of the audit should be a surprise. Because at the moment they get, we're coming for an audit in a fortnight. So they go and make everything tidy. Well, that's not the way it should work, I don't think.
Okay.
I'm not having any complaints whatsoever about the transfer station.
Well, there was when they threatened to shut it down.
You don't shut it down, I'll tell you that.
Okay, can I have somebody to move and second it, then go out of public?
Sorry, first and second for members' reports?
Members' reports first.
Sorry.
Yep. The second, yep. And then you're going to move. Okay, now you can do the other one.
Now, can I have a second and a move and a second and it relieve the public?
Go into public excluded.
Public excluded.
Go into public.
Go into public excluded.
Yeah.
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 We've been trying to